Is this a
Hi, welcome to the New York Parrot Literary Corner. My name is Dustin Pickering. I am your host. Today we have Joshua Corwin, a Los Angeles native, neurodiverse, two-time Pushcart Prize nominated, Best of the Net nominated poet, and winner of the 2021 Spillwards Press Award for Poetic Publication of the Year. His poetry memoir, Becoming Vulnerable, details his experience with autism, addiction, sobriety, and spirituality. His work has appeared in Winning Writers, the Somerville Times, Palestinian Post, National Beat Poetry Foundation, Stanford University's Life in Quarantine, and more. He has lectured at UCLA, published alongside Lawrence Ferlinghetti, and read with 2015 U.S. inaugural poet Richard Blanco.
Oh, it's 2013.
2013, sorry.
Yeah.
And he also hosts the poetry podcast Assiduous Dust, writes the weekly incentivized column for Oddball magazine, and teaches poetry to neurodiverse individuals and autistic addicts in recovery at the Miracle Project, an autism nonprofit. Corwin is the editor and producer of Assiduous Dust, home of the OTSCP Volume 1, featuring a collaboration with 56 award-winning poets demonstrating one of his invented forms of poetry. He is currently working on an existential novel about an alcoholic lawyer plagued with suicidal ideation. You can find his work at www.joshuacorwin.com. Thank you for joining us today, Joshua. How are you?
Thank you so much. I do want to clarify one thing, that it's 36, not 56 people, and this Assiduous Dust anthology. I was going to have it come out for April, but it's probably going to be a bit later. But I can't wait to hopefully have you on for season 2. By the way, of
excellent.
Of Assiduous Dust. So I'm very much looking forward to this, and thank you for having me here.
You're very welcome, and we're glad to have you. So if there's anything else that you'd like to add to your bio that's not mentioned in the written form, feel free to speak up and say what you would like to say about yourself.
Just to stay groovy. I like using the word groovy a lot, and you can always go to my website.
All right. Yes, that's a good introduction. So, first question, tell us about Becoming Vulnerable. Why did you choose that title, and what was the creative process behind it?
Oh, thank you so much. Yeah, and this is the book, Becoming Vulnerable. So the title is, I couldn't see anything other than the title, Becoming Vulnerable. I started working on it really in 2019 after I graduated college. So Pitzer College, go Sage Hens. That's my alma mater. And what was happening, so I'm a recovering alcoholic and addict, and it's 420, and marijuana was a big thing, so it's cool that I'm doing that, speaking here on 420. So one of the themes is sobriety, spirituality, autism, addiction. These are all themes in this book. And what happened was I was doing a independent study thesis in at the intersection of philosophy, mind, cognitive neuroscience for Pitzer College for my undergrad. And there was a creative writing professor who happened to, during a break, I shared, and I said, you know, I have a poem I'd like to share with you. I shared it. We went back to our business. Now it's about a few months go by. I've finished thesis. It's about a week or so before graduation. What is there to do? Wander the campus, and I run and see that professor, and he calls me over and says, "Josh, come over here." So I say, "Okay." He says, "That poem that you sent me was phenomenal. You should submit it for publication or whatnot." And if a professor says phenomenal, that usually means something. And so I thought about it, and so I was in a bit of I was doing some accounting assistant stuff post-graduation. And during that summer, I kind of was in a car accident, lost that job. And my grandfather was dying in the hospital, and he was an educator and a principal for a school, and he always wanted me to get my work out there. And as one of my amends was like, let me try to piece together some poetry. And also, I started just writing a bunch and going to readings that people said to do. And that was in 2019. So my first published poem was around August 2019. And in this process, as my grandfather's, passing away, I'm honoring him by writing, by putting together this book. And some of the pieces, it starts with my grandfather and his influence and how much impact he had on me. His last, or his penultimate words really were, don't ever stop writing. And that meant a lot to me. So it's dedicated to him. And then I started like writing more and having experiences. Like there's a poem in it called The Update. And so often I fall on the floor every now and then, every once or a year or so. And as somebody with autism, I'm able to articulate very well. I've had lots of therapy and speech therapy and different therapies. And every now and then I fall on the floor and I'm not able to articulate at all. And it's incredibly terrifying. And one day I wrote this poem, The Update, and then I reflected on it. I realized, wow, my brain, it's neurodiverse. It's wired a little differently. All this sensory information is coming in. Okay, let me, I'm able to, maybe this falling down isn't like an update, so to speak. And I'm just updating and kind of taking some time to just deal with all the sensory information coming my way as someone who's neurotypical, acting in a typical environment, in a typical world. And of that, I realized, so that next time that happened, that incident occurred, because of the poem that I wrote, I ended up, next time I fell on the floor, instead of being in complete terror, which I was a bit, I took the time to reflect on my life and kind of look at how far I've come and grown along. And I think my grandfather would be pleased. So autism, I started to write more stuff. So autism became kind of more a focus in there. And then I started to write about addiction, how autism and addiction and sobriety and spirituality really tied, almost like a narrative of the story with, highlighting vulnerabilities. And I realized that certain things that you wouldn't maybe normally talk about and discuss, but in fact, those ended up being like my greatest strengths through telling these things. And I could use it to maybe help other people through a book. And I was approached, someone wanted to publish this book, and I get to honor my grandfather that way. And I was approached by, I told Elaine Hall, who's the CEO and founder of the Miracle Project. She's an excellent individual. She's spoken at the United Nations for World Autism Day. And okay, I told her about the concept behind that poem, The Update. And so I got involved in working with the Miracle Project of using poetry as a means of self-exploration for neurodiverse individuals and autistic addicts, and hopefully, and doing more of that. And that's, it's all because, wow, I kind of, listen to the signs of what's going on with the universe, as well as, a little hint of a professor saying, maybe you should submit that poem. So I really owe it to that professor. And what's cool is that he ended up writing the foreword for the book, which is pretty awesome. Especially, he's a great man, Albert Wachtel.
Excellent.
Very cool dude.
So one of the things
that's really the title.
That's
and what
very interesting story.
About.
It's quite a collaboration of different things pulling together, and it's also very therapeutic for you and probably for others reading it and understanding their own troubles and travails. And I think it's very positive, and it's good that you're working with the Miracle Project and trying to help others as well find those discoveries through poetry. One of the things I noticed in the poems that I've read of yours, you use a lot of synesthesia, and it's like, for instance, there's a phrase in your poem 12:01 a.m. It says, "Hear the
that was my
shine of your eyes."
yeah,
Hear the shine of your eyes.
that was my
Yeah.
second published poem, and that was the
Mhm.
one that was nominated for the pushcart. So when somebody said, "Oh, it's a pushcart," I thought, like, kind of jokingly, like, where's the cart so I can push it? But yeah,
Right.
about the shine in your eyes. So it's kind of
Uh-huh.
this blend that you're talking
Right.
about,
Hmm.
and you take that as synesthesia.
Yeah, that's what I think it's called. I think that's the technical term. It's
Yeah.
well, I looked it up just to be sure, and the definition I found: description of one kind of sense by using words that normally describe another. So you
Mhm.
can hear the
Like
shine. You don't normally
colors.
hear a shine,
Yeah.
right? You don't normally hear a shine. You normally would see a shine, and so that's kind of
It's
combining the senses. And
it's
uh,
really like, how did that come about? Like that
right,
phraseology, so to speak, and like, is there some history behind that poem or that line?
right, yes,
So
yeah. I just
there,
wondered what the story is behind that.
it's really interesting. I was actually on the phone. Um, I'm also in a 12-step program.
Hmm.
And I was on the phone with somebody from that I respect from the 12-step program, kind of like a mentor. And it happened to be, I pulled into my garage. I was living in downtown LA at the time, into the garage. And I will sometimes do this thing where I'm on the phone with somebody and, I'll have the car running and kind of just be on the phone still. And I'll sit like sometimes for 30 or 40 minutes on the phone after, rather than just going up to my place and continuing the conversation. So
Hmm.
it ended up being like 12 a.m. And then I looked at my clock and it turned 12:01 a.m. And I had this intense feeling of gratitude. And I was on the phone and I said, you know, and there was this meaningful bliss in our conversation at 12:01 a.m. And I looked at the time and I said, I can hear the shine in your eyes on the other end of the telephone.
Hmm.
You know, uh,
Wow.
when I speak like this, when I speak this way, I feel authentic and not heavy. I don't feel lugged down. And so I then right after that, I'm like, oh shoot, this is a poem. So I got off the
Right.
phone and just didn't get up and walk back to my place. I just sat in the car because I'm like, I don't want to lose this momentum. And I jotted down those lines and I wrote a bunch more lines and I edited that. And the poem is about this, finding yourself and kind of human
Hmm.
connection, as well as an actual experience where I sat across from an individual that had gone through the same similar challenges that I had, and that I can, and I've had other people that have gone through similar challenges, and we all watch and we see. So it's a really grounded in a physical based on physical events that happened where I was, on the phone saying some lines and then recalling on the phone about a time where I really just unburdened my soul to someone sitting across from me, someone who I respected and admired. But the fact that it happened at 12:01 a.m. is cool, because then it's like, well, is the person in the chair, you could interpret it as you, the next minute of who you are, as a new day. The clock starts at 12. So I realized, oh shoot, this has that kind of sense. So you're looking at yourself in the past, that you were me, you you were once me, that you're talking to yourself as we kind of go
Hmm.
on. And time has always been important to me. Like, I've always felt that, as well as the notion of like the problem of continued continuity. That was something that I explored in my thesis, of looking at like the persistence of self from a metaphysical perspective. It always baffled me. So I'm very much
Hmm.
interested in those types of things as well. Um, Not sure if you
Right.
caught that reading the poem, but
Yes, definitely. Yeah, it's definitely I think it was a gripping poem. I mean, when I'm reading it, I'm not sure what 12, now that you've explained it, the 12:01,
yeah, it was
it makes a
actually
lot
at
of sense.
12:01 a.m.
Right. That's very fascinating. It's an actual moment captured, a snapshot captured. So
Yeah.
one thing I would like you to do now is, if you want, if you have ability to, if you want to, read
Yeah,
a
I
poem
have.
for us.
Read that poem, read 12:01 a.m.
Anything you would like to read. You can read that one if you want.
It might make logical sense to read that one, so
Right.
why not?
Sure,
So I
let's
like
do
to
it.
stand when I read.
Absolutely.
A
Go right
quick
ahead.
second.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Okay, this is fine. You can hear me?
Yes.
Awesome. Okay. I can hear the shine in your eyes on the other end of the telephone. When I speak like this, I feel authentic and not heavy. I don't have to tattoo meaning in the air to know what you mean. I remember when you first told me, apropos of nothing, about the different levels of charitable donation. I was sitting right across from you, over there. You in that armchair, me in this one, our eyes. You said there's the donor who gives large sums and puts a placard on the wall, signifying who it's from. And then there is the other one who gives, but remains anonymous. Your words hanging like a phantom. I didn't have to be who I thought I was. You were once me, once where I was. In that moment, I knew.
Excellent. I love that. I love that poem. Another one that captivated me in your poetry is the poem about the hummingbird and your grandfather, which
Yes.
you used the phrase, you used a word.
That's all true, by the way. All the stuff is true.
What?
All the stuff is
Right.
true in that thing. Like a hummingbird actually came and it's all, yeah.
You used the word God shots, and I thought that was that an original coinage, or is that a phrase that
No,
maybe
I
passed
did
down
not.
from tradition, or?
I didn't coin that. That's something that I heard from someone. I actually heard someone talking about that in hummingbirds and God shots at a 12-step meeting. And so all the parts in that thing, like somebody gave me some literature that, when I was feeling like carrying suicide on my shoulders and lugging that around. And the part about like my grandpa with hummingbirds and the hummingbird feeders. And it's just amazing. And they're remarkable creatures. I don't have the coffee mug that's talked about, though, that my mom gave me with the hummingbird and says, begin each day with a grateful heart. That it got broken, shattered when I moved. I think I moved from downtown to LA to Santa Monica, and I believe that got broken somehow. Unfortunately, it really meant a lot to me.
Right. Yeah, that's happened to me too. Same thing. Very treasured things that represent the past and people.
Yeah, the term God shot, it's kind of like a little moment or something, kind of like kismet, but not exactly. It's this looking at the oddities of life and how little things happen that are kind of like winks from like God or some kind of spirit of the universe or whatever, but you don't know. It's just little winks and certain things happening, and we all have our narratives kind of run one into another, and our stories kind of weave, and some aspects begin and then branch out to another story. And that's kind of how our lives work, but also how we interact in life. And sometimes there are little kind of remnants of that, or little types of things that you'd call God shot. For example, like I'm talking, let's say I'm speaking with you, and all of a sudden I'm talking about some person, and all of a sudden I see, like, just before me is that person just walking by. It doesn't mean, and not because they didn't come because I hear their name, and it doesn't mean that, oh, I heard that person and this is happening, that's so cool, it's a God shot. It doesn't mean that specifically that, oh, I need to go over to that person and talk to them. It's not an indicator of what must be done in the next moment, but rather it's a thing of showing you're on the right path. And this is just a little reminder of just a wink from God, just a little God
Right.
shot, so to speak.
Mm.
So it's just an indicator of all of our connections, of our interlapping currents of our lives interfacing. It's just a little remnant, a little thing, and it could be likened to there are sparks, little vessels, in Tikkun Olam that we believe in Judaism, that kind of the shards of the world and everything got scattered, and light got scattered down everywhere. And what happened is that we get to do Tikkun Olam, repair the world, and piece back the shards, and that they're little bits of shards. I believe very much that there are shards, there are incidences, coincidences, little ways of kind of some greater power staying anonymous that is embedded in reality, and so intersects with our stories. And so sometimes from time to time, you'll see one of those. And it doesn't mean that you're on to some universal truth or whatever, certain things, but it can if you kind of want it to. You get to make your own meaning from it. And that's what a God shot is, little winks.
Quite interesting. It's philosophically, that's very stimulating, and I think that's very true. And I like that phrase. I never heard God shot before. And that poem, it was a very touching poem, by the way. I really appreciated what you wrote in that. I also had a connection to hummingbirds myself, and growing up with hummingbirds around in my great grandparents' yard and so forth. So if you want to read another poem, you can read that one, or you can read one that you'd rather, if you do, that you prefer.
I can read that one. It's a bit longer. I don't know if that makes sense. Why don't I read that one? And this is in Becoming Vulnerable, which you can purchase on my website, joshuacorwin.com.
You can see the name there on a Parrot Literary Corner on the background there. So that's joshuacorwin.com. Just take a look if you want to buy his book. Feel free.
Yeah, and don't go from Amazon, because Amazon's the devil, and I think there should be an anthology called what is it called? Amazon Killed the Rainforest.
Yes,
I think that would be a great thing.
We have about 10 minutes left in the meeting, so go ahead and read, and we'll wrap it up.
Okay, sounds good. Hello, Grandpa. And this is a prose hybrid poem, by the way. I have a special relationship with hummingbirds. My mom told me they are the smallest birds in the world. They represent gratitude and humility, love and God shots. The latter needs some explaining. Let me hum. God graced me with sobriety on August 13th, 2015. I was sitting on a park bench around the corner from my parents' house at this place called The View Site, overlooking valleys, peaks, naders, and zeniths representative of despair and the bottomless pit, an abyssal gorge of treason against my raison d'etre, smoking a joint and looking to the sky overlooking Pacific Coast Highway. I didn't know why I was smoking and doing what I was doing. This substance, no longer sustenance for me. My dog by my internal fireside, peering deep into my inferno, blazing like the doobie. Dubious, I cried out, answerless. No response, no reason. Pain, psychic and depressive, feeling psychotic. At one of my first 12-step anonymous meetings, a fellow in this group of brave souls banded together to redirect the flames, to burn brightly rather than skewer wild boars, shared about hummingbirds and God shots. Little events, coincidences and winks from God. Doesn't mean anything. It's just a visible wink, blinking in and out, sumic vessels, breaths, smiles. I regained my faith in Judaism through the process of the 12 steps, particularly with receiving anonymous Hasidic texts and 9-step amends to my childhood rabbi. When I was nearly 2 years sober, I moved into an apartment by myself. living on my own, the neighbor above would shine a hummingbird feeder out my window. Balcony greeted song and winged love. I hear their wings flapping, music napping, solace to resound within as I meditate. Once in a while, I'd sip from a coffee mug given by mother, a hummingbird etched, red, begin each day with a grateful heart. I'd sip, drink in the hummingbird humming, hovering outside my window. The neighbor casting ballots of golden chimes as cars passed on Figueroa. We would look each other in the eyes, angel and man. Angelic, this winged waiter would dish out gratitude, me sipping coffee from its etched Talmud, listen to rabbinical analysis on YouTube, and would follow me, showering the dove into my own personal mikvah of song. Sometimes these creatures would present and protect themselves to me on the grassy mounds of belonging out in Claremont. I meditate, rejoice, and remember, eyes closed. Open dove songs from solace sheltered in the Lord, belonging not just to the grassy pasture place, but also to the winged bird inside me, resonating raison d'etre. When I taught a one-day course, a godshot too long to express, but some bits and pieces I'll address, I pulled a book out from the haunted mud library. I was bored and exhausted, reading for philosophy of language, seminar, and I was drawn to a book, Consciousness and Tradition. I took the book, read, and felt myself humming, hovering, that feeling remembered again. I found it in my bag a few days later when I taught a course on the art of story weaving experience. Sitting on the patio of the inside out classroom at Harvey Mudd, muddy waters washed away as a hummingbird hovered above my shoulder. Yesterday was July 27th. I drove to the view site, the place where I last used to scatter there ashic, dustic, rustic remains of my late grandpa Mert. The dishes in my soul sink, emotionally tone deaf in my solar plexus and aortic authenticity. I called a friend from the 12-step meeting I first attended. I was humming soon. 5 minutes early, I sat there before family arrived. In peace, I read recovery literature given to me when I felt like carrying on my shoulders suicide, handed to me by the man who showered words at my first anonymous meeting about hummingbirds and godshots. As I read, a hummingbird descended to greet me. "Hello, Grandpa," I said. It vanished. Grandma and others appeared from the distance, roaming this dusty forest of memories. Words and videos were spoken, murmured, and hummed, narration and song. Yes, I'm leaving on a jet plane. Don't know when I'll be back again. As ashes scattered, our lot departed. On the trunk of an old, wise tree with knowledge in the earth, returned a hummingbird. "Hello, Grandpa." Thank you.
Beautiful. Absolutely great poem. Really worth the length of it. I think it's so touching and poignant. It's just amazing. Anybody can relate to that. I think that has lost someone close to them and felt the divine presence within the world itself. So we have a remaining 3 minutes or so. So if you want to impart any kind of anything you want to say to our fellow writers, poets, creative minds out there, give about 2 minutes or so. We can probably wrap it up after that.
Sure. Well, thank you again, Dustin, and Mutiu, for having me. This is a great platform, what you're doing here at New York Parrot Literary Corner. It's really great. And something that I'd say is to be vulnerable within life's margins, to write about things that maybe, I don't know, maybe people don't want to hear about, to let your truths go on paper. And of course, also to just write regardless. You know, I have, you know, a few tons of writing surrounding me and there, and I find that just to write every day is really important, and to observe the world around me. You know, I'll go to the park, I'll go wherever, you know, keep a pen with you, pen, some paper, computer. And I think that it's important to also reflect back on our writing and see how we've grown and how writing can be used as a way to be of service to others, be it poetry or anything, because someone has gone through an experience that you have. So why not share it? Let the world know you're not alone. Or if you are alone, let's be alone together, you know, and let's, you know, let's honor that. I think that's something that's probably the most important thing, and share it with the world.
Absolutely. Thank you very much for joining us, Joshua. It's been a pleasure speaking with you. And this is the New York Parrot Literary Corner. We're doing the 1 million subscriber challenge. We're trying to get 1 million subscribers to this channel. So if you're a creative mind, please tell others out there to just subscribe, like a video, check us out. I mean, come on, guys. This is a free opportunity for everybody to speak their mind and talk about us. And thank you very much again, Joshua. And thanks to our viewers as well. Please keep watching this this program. We'll keep it going. And we're also accepting donations. And anytime, you know, if anybody's on the show, they don't have to donate. It's not a requirement. You know, we just want to be able to have some things that we need for our programming. So anybody is welcome to donate it at any time. And thank you again, Joshua, and thanks to our viewers. And we will close now. And thank you and have a great day, everybody.